Dearest agent of the universe, when these letters are no longer acceptable in your life, or you would like your planet to leave my hemisphere, please message me. Please don't just disappear, because although I am a great fan of magic, the disappearing act is one of my least favorite tricks. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that every day there are signals, messages, events that, if we are aware, guide us, that open undiscovered paths, giving us an option to get off the well-traveled roundabout that characterizes so many of our lives. If life is merely a series of coincidences, then my life is drowning in them, and the impossible story of the Mormon agent and the Yogi is by far the largest one. If I told you the signals coming into my life with this embargo, you would laugh, really. As a sidebar, you know the place where we met? I had not been there for nearly 3 years, and a series of very strange events led me to be there, the day you met me. So yes, I find it very hard to believe that what my heart says to my mind is but a fable. Before we move on, let me simply explain what a neuron is, as it is a word that keeps popping up all over the place. Neurons, also called nerve cells, kind of look like giant centipedes. Neurons speak to other neurons, or tissues, via an electrical or chemical signal. In order to fire, there has to be a shift in charge from negative to positive in the neuron. They never partially fire, because with neurons it is all or nothing, so there's no yoga in these things. Note, neurons are very COVID-friendly as they do not touch. Instead, there is a gap, known as a synapse between them, through which a signal is transferred. It is chemicals, neurotransmitters such as serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, adrenaline, endorphins, etc., that when released in the space between the neurons, allows the signal to move from one neuron to another and decides what the message is and where to carry it. So when I say that our thoughts and their attached emotions lead to the release of good or bad chemicals in us that affect all levels of our body, I am speaking of chemicals such as these. Because these chemicals, neurotransmitters, can create or prevent a connection, which drive everything in our body. Basically, neurons are a communication information network, whereby nothing, and I mean nothing, happens without a neuron being present. Just think of what would happen in your world if all the communication networks you have built in your world were to break down. Chaos, right? So keeping your neurons firing and in good shape is really important. As a side note, the two main elements that are required for neurons to operate are sodium, and I don't mean salt, and potassium. Our neural pathways are what give rise to our personality and our consciousness, as well as a host of other roles that we have seen from our autonomic nervous system. But we also now know that the thought paths we communicate on every day are the ones that will influence the neural pathways we create and continually stimulate in our body. This is what is meant when we say that humans only use a small percentage of their brains. Because we live in the same habits, follow the same patterns in our day-to-day lives, remain closed to anything outside the box, often shy away from new experiences or learning new things that will challenge us. As a result, there remains an entire population of neurons that we never visit or connect to at all. It's like driving down the same highway your entire life and never taking a side or a back road. Think of everything out there in your body, all the potential within yourself that you have completely missed by riding the same habits and patterns every single day. When it comes to the heart, we always speak of it a little flippantly, because so many of us don't truly understand the power of our heart on every level of our being. Just as the gut is the queen, the brain is the king, the heart is the jester. Because when we know how to unlock it, we can use it to teach ourselves happiness and so much more. Put aside the fact that it is our generator and dive a little deeper, and this is what you will discover. This powerful chakra in our body, known as the Anahata chakra, is located close to the heart at the center of our chest. Remember the left and right energy channels and how they intersect our main channel in 3 different locations, the top, the mid, and lower back? Well, one of those intersections sits right in the middle of this chakra. So when our channels are filled with negativity and despair, it not only blocks our enlightened channel, the one that runs from the base of our spine to the crown of our head, but it also impacts our heart chakra, which, as you will see, impacts the energy we give off, which, as you now know, either opens us to other frequencies or limits us and basically affects every level of our being. I'm going to divulge into a little sexy science here, because I fear if I just describe the heart's importance from yogic philosophy, you will not understand just how important our heart is. It is home to over 40,000 neurons and nearly 2 billion muscle cells. With these neurons, the heart speaks to everyone, including the brain, where actually the flow between the two, the brain and the heart, is predominantly between the heart and the brain and not the brain and the heart. When our chakra wheel is spinning and most of our 40,000 plus neurons are firing in synchronicity and coherence, the energy that our heart gives off can literally be felt up to 10 meters away. Its electromagnetic field, when tested with an electrocardiogram, measured 60 times greater in amplitude than our brain, even though the brain has nearly 10 billion neurons. It is so powerful that in Chinese medicine it is known as the emperor, the house of our spirit. The magnitude and power of the energy is so large that we are now seeing that when two people touch or are close together, there is a transference of electromagnetic energy between the two. So when I say to you, I want to feel your energy and speak without words, this is what I mean. Our heart, like our gut, communicates with our brain via our superfly yellow caterpillar, the vagus nerve, through electrical impulses and chemicals. The heart also communicates with our pituitary gland in our brain to regulate the release of the love hormone and neurotransmitter oxytocin. But to communicate clearly with the brain, our glands, and all our organs, the heart must be engaged in a steady heartbeat. Our HRV must be spacious, which, if you remember from one of the last letters, can only happen if we are in our sattvic state of contentment. It really is an amusement park of interconnecting rides. As the heart speaks more with the brain than the brain does with the heart, we can use the heart as a starting point, rather than waiting around for the brain to get its act together and move the body to homeostasis. Take a seat. Close your eyes. Move your focus to your heart. Imagine a Ferris wheel full of happy, colorful elves spinning around. Those elves are your emotions. The wheels, its spokes, are your neurons. Now visualize a future you want for yourself. Be specific, but not materialistic. So a red sports car? Not ideal. Now imagine how you will feel when that comes true. Happy, joyful, grateful, and so forth. Sit with those feelings in your heart. Let each elf represent the elevated high energy feelings which spins the Ferris wheel of energy to expand, and then move that energy throughout your body, beginning not only to form new neural paths for these emotions to ride on, but also elevate our own magnetic field. Try and stay like this for 20 minutes or more as your neurons, ones that have probably been latent or erratic from all the low-frequency feelings you subject yourself to create new pathways from your heart to your brain. These pathways will tell and teach your brain that this experience has already happened, so it moves into the database of experiences that influence our behaviors and emotions, and at the same time sends this information into your electromagnetic field, and from there out into the universe, where a match exists for your visualization. Hard to believe, but so true. My life can attest to that. The more you sit with these emotions in your heart, the more you will create a new neural highway of emotions in your body, other than the ones you commute on every day. The highway of anxiety, fear, anger, sadness, that have become habits and addictions because you just keep riding them all day, every day. Getting out of these habits, these emotional paths we have carved out in us, in our body from childhood, is as deep as the Grand Canyon. It's like getting off heroin. Painful, will take work, but totally worth it in the end. Through the practice of yoga, you can create new neurological connections and pathways that will not only spark unique creativity in you, but bring on a realization that there really is more than one way to live your life. But all this takes awareness and the breaking of emotional, mental, and physical habits. If you don't know what you want, no problem. Then just sit for 20 minutes or more in elevated feelings by visualizing the changes you want to see in you. The same thing will happen as above, but in this case, the changes that eventually arise will be within yourself. When our heart is coherent, meaning everything is synced up smoothly, is beating steadily, in a normal pressure range, the Ferris wheel is happy and vibrant, it leads to a happy brain, which leads to our neural network, organs, glands, blood pH, all dancing disco. More likely to the Bee Gees song, Staying Alive. Your heart really is also an energy expander that creates that superhero energetic magnetic field around us. It is in these high-frequency magnetic field that our heart's brilliant intelligence is unlocked and allows us to connect to the intelligence and information in the infinite space that surrounds us and hugs us. When our heart is incoherent, our heartbeat irregular, our HRV low, our elves all dressed in black and the wheel turning slow, our blood pressure too high or low, we feel depressed, anxious, and the communication between the heart and the brain is erratic. We move into our default mode and operate more from our animalistic reactive brain, our brainstem, and our lower chakras as only our basic neurons are firing. It may interest you to know that it is not the external world that causes this state, but our unmanaged emotional response to the external world that leads us to sitting in this incoherent state. Then there is that hidden gem, the thymus gland, which hides behind our breastbone, the heart chakra. It is part of our immune system as it produces disease-fighting T cells until we finish puberty, after which it shrinks. Which, if you think about it, is insane, as it must therefore produce all our T white cells that not only protect us from viruses and infections, but also protect our body from our autoimmunity, which is when the immune system goes crazy and turns on itself, before the demise of puberty. Yet, when we meditate on our heart, change our thought process, thereby altering our emotional state, bring our energy inwards instead of pouring it out into the external world, into our being, and spin that Ferris wheel, we actually give a boost to the thymus, which boosts our immune system and slows down the thymus's inevitable death into a lump of fat. When our heart is coherent, which happens when we are sitting in elevated emotions, and therefore the heart is clearly conversing with all the other body parts, there is another part of our immune system that gets a boost, and that is through the production of IgA. A deficiency of IgA leads to the increased frequency of infections, which include, but are not limited to, sinus, lung, and digestive infections, as well as an increase in allergies, digestive and autoimmune problems, such as celiac disease or lupus. Not surprisingly, IgA is predominantly produced in our gut. But what is really fabulous is that high levels of IgA may be able to turn on or off gene expression. So just because you have a gene that is set out to kill you faster or make your life really difficult, it does not mean we can't switch off the gene by practicing all 8 limbs of yoga. It is why in yoga we not only elevate the heart, but engage in a number of gut cleaning practices, including the ingestion of salt water, which aims to cleanse the gut and elevate feelings of wellness, as only when the gut is completely empty and no digestive neurons are firing can the gut relax and rejuvenate. Clearing and cleaning the gut also releases blocked energy that, along with waste residue, get clogged and stuck in the folds of our intestines, which affects our skin, senses, allergies, and so forth. There is a reason we should squat and not sit when disposing of waste from our body. It helps clear out the folds. Yogis really were geniuses in the true sense. Then there's the pranayama, Kapalbhati breath, where we create heat and fire in our belly by a slow inhale and a vigorous exhale. This breath activates and invigorates the spleen, the liver, pancreas, transverse abdominal muscles, not the useless pretty six-pack ones, and improves digestion. The more advanced version of this is Nauli Kriya. All of the above lead to us feeling lighter and happier, which is not surprising as the gut is also home to the largest production of serotonin, which is a feel-good chemical. As a side note, please don't engage in any of these without the complete knowledge of them or supervision, because if practiced incorrectly, well, you know, somebody's going to get hurt real bad, and that somebody's going to be you. So, when our heart is flying and our gut is healthy, not only do we feel fantastic, but our immune system is like a well-fortified castle. It really is all connected, and it really all starts with our thoughts and the feelings we attach to our thoughts. And we are back to the power of our conditioned mind, and how important it is to begin to erase our conditioning and plant our own garden with seeds of good, healthy thoughts, emotions, ideas, and to engage in new experiences. I can't reiterate enough just how important it is to be aware of what you keep dumping in your mind via TV, music, social media, other people. It all gets absorbed in us like a sponge, and then, like it or not, influences and defines who we are and how our lives play out. The more negative you put in there, the more incoherent your internal state will be, the lower the frequency you are vibrating at, the less you are aware and present, and the more suffering you will endure. Remember, what you give out is what you will always get back, as the energy you give out is filled with information that influences your life. Just like how information is carried out in wavelengths for radio and the internet. Like what you type into the web browser will reflect what information you get back. What channel you choose to watch will influence the show you watch, and so forth. Lastly, in addition to our thoughts influencing our heart and unblocking our heart chakra, heart-centered asanas loosen and open that choke point at the level of your heart. You can meditate all you want, but if the energy in your heart chakra is blocked, not much is going to happen. Singing, as well as chanting mantras like Om, also have a profound and powerful effect in loosening up this choke point. It is why when we are sad, heartbroken, that we feel that ache in our heart, because those channels get choked and blocked at the level of the heart. Stay in that incoherent state long enough, and yes, you will die of a broken heart, as the conversation between the heart and the brain will slowly die, and that avalanche of harmful chemicals and hormones will bury us, literally. Our entire bodily system was not built to handle soap operas, and yet so many of us live our lives as if we were in one. Note how when you are happy and in love, you feel overwhelming joy in your heart. It is because those choke points are loosened and energy begins to flow smoothly through all three channels. It is the same reason you feel good after a good yoga class, because the asanas have opened your channels, loosened the choke points, and with the aid of our breath and pranayama, freed our body from the handcuffs of negative emotions that keep blocking our channels. You know, when the West stole yoga, they really should have stolen all of it. Love, the Enchanted Yogi.